We climb up the chimney. We ain't ducking no smoke. John Morant said that, and I'm saying this. Welcome to High and Low. Good day and good night. Welcome to the High and Low Basketball Show. This is episode number 100 and Nash, aka episode number 174. Steve Nash is arguably the greatest of all NBA players born in the year 1974. Yep, that's right. Two-time MVP Captain Canada Steve Nash is almost 50 years old. Of all the players born in 74, Nash has the distinction of being the longest tenured player, 18 years. Actually, he shares that honor with Jerry Stackhouse. Other notable players born in 74.
Wait for it!
Rasheed Wallace, Ben Wallace, Derek Fisher, and one of the most overhyped high school players of all time, Felipe Lopez. Yeah, that's right. Felipe Lopez is almost 50 years old. That man was in his senior year getting a shout out on a Beat Nuts record. What a life. Anyway, again, welcome to the High and Low Basketball Show, also known as the High and Low NBA Show. My name is Ike Amaechi, and I'm here with Hugo the Sheik and Sean to the Break It Down Khan. You can also call him Sean Khan. Around here, we live by a principle governed by the high and low lives of the world, which means we talk about basketball, especially and specifically the NBA, and we talk about it at any time, anywhere, north, south, east, west, high and low. This week on the show, we're talking about the NBA's reputation in the global basketball community. Its cachet and importance beyond American borders, because it feels like there's been a bit of a shift, some backlash. I'm getting the sense that the global community isn't as far up the backside of the NBA as one might think. But I don't know. Let's litigate. We'll litigate. We'll also get into a conversation about the reputations of NBA players, the shenanigans that some get into, and whether that warrants the privileged status as icons and role models that NBA stars have and hold. Yeah, we'll talk about that. Anyway, stay tuned for that. Before we lock in, let me check in.
Oh, hi. Thanks for checking in. I'm still a piece of garbage.
Real quick. Gentlemen, welcome back. How's the school year starting out for you guys?
Well, no complaints from my side of the fence. My kids started school. They stayed at school. My son wanted to be in a different class because his friend was in another class. So I said, well, nope, that's not going to happen. And I'm already checking out to see what sports they want to get into. So we'll see. Hopefully they decide to hoop, but we'll see.
Nice. And hey, happy belated birthday to Hugo the Sheik, another journey around the sun.
Iron sharpens iron, so I appreciate that, my friend.
Hey.
And family. But we don't talk about that. Yes, I've survived another turn around the sun, and looking forward to many more.
Yeah, man. 1 year wiser.
I don't know about wiser. We'll just say 1 year.
And Sean Khan, welcome back, man.
Yeah. It's been a couple of weeks at least. Mm-hmm. It's nice having the kid back in daycare. I work from home, so it's when she was off for August, and it was a bit hectic. But having her back, it seems like the routine is back, kind of settled, and we're off and running in September.
Nice. A lot of Top Boy talk lately. Have you guys watched it yet?
I watched for like 5 minutes. I just haven't had the time, but I'm really you said it wasn't. It's been getting kind of bad reviews.
Spoiler.
Season three's been. You know what?
Just watch it.
I liked it. But if you dive in deeply, if you start to look into the crevices.
What did you say?
Anyway, I was entertained.
Pause.
I was entertained. Pause.
Yeah, I was about to say crevices.
You know me. You don't have to put this on the podcast, but I'm trying to be as progressive a guy as I can be in all facets of life. But and as much as I love her character, being compared to a woman is I had to you know what I mean? I'm like, was that an insult? But I know it wasn't. I know you wouldn't have You could have done that, and like I love her character. She's the most gangster person on the show, probably. But like,
I love her character, man.
I know, but be compared to a woman, you're like, really? But
man,
I'm trying to be progressive, but I still have this like,
maybe you have to watch the show so you know what they're talking about.
I do watch the show. I just haven't watched the season.
Okay.
Yeah.
Oh, you know what? You watch this season, it might change. It might change your.
All right.
You go. Please watch it, man. And yeah.
Yeah,
Sean, finish up season 3, man.
Hey, gotta give you props. I think that's the second time you used a Beatnuts reference on an intro.
I'm trying to get money like Felipe Lopez.
Hey, man. I don't know. I have a Spotify playlist of just like 90s tracks. And I know I have maybe about 5 or 6 Beatnuts songs on there. So I think I might have listened to it. And it's just top of mind. But Felipe Lopez definitely got that shout out. It's crazy. High school kid, 17 years old, getting shout outs on. Imagine him going back to school the next day. Just like
man's a king.
Anyway, Sean, you go. Appreciate your time this week. Thank you for joining me. Listeners, thank you for joining us for another installment of the High and Low NBA show. Another week, another episode, more NBA. So, of course, more High and Low. This week in NBA history, Jerry Colangelo had a dream. On September 21st, 1991, USA Basketball announced the nucleus of its lineup for the upcoming Barcelona Summer Olympics. The Americans had vengeance on the mind after finishing with a bronze medal at the 1988 Summer Olympics in Seoul, Korea. The bronze in '88 was considered an atrocity, an embarrassment, an upset to the highest degree. This was followed by a semifinal loss to Yugoslavia in the FIBA Worlds in 1990, and then a semifinal loss to Puerto Rico in 1991 at the Pan Am Games. So enough was enough at that point. The Americans were done sending college players to international tournaments where they were matched up against teams unofficially filling their rosters with unsanctioned vets, grown men with grown men's strength. They got in FIBA's ear and had them officially change the rule which would allow professional players to suit up for their countries. This opened the door for the Dream Team, the greatest sports team ever assembled, the first Avengers, an American roster filled with the best of the best NBA stars from the land of the free, home of the brave. I would have paid good money to see the faces of the officials, the coaches, the players from other international teams as the names were announced. Michael Jordan, Magic Johnson, Larry Bird, Charles Barkley, Karl Malone, Scottie Pippen, Patrick Ewing, David Robinson, John Stockton, Chris Mullin. I mean, I'm sure each name felt like a shot to the gut, and the Dream Team delivered. They delivered those shots the following year in the Olympic tournament and made it painful for every team they faced. Remember Angola getting their ass handed to them by 70 points? Crazy.
You missed like the best player, Christian Laettner.
No, he wasn't announced yet. He was announced in February of 1992. Him and Clyde Drexler. But yeah, don't want to forget Christian Laettner. And everyone was very upset at the fact that Shaquille O'Neal wasn't named to the roster. But
Isaiah Thomas wasn't named, but that's a whole different story.
Oh yeah. Speaking of not wanting to reopen old wounds, and I don't mean to reopen old wounds, but it's all connected. This year, the Americans finished 4th in the FIBA World Cup, losing to Germany in the semifinals and then losing to the Canadians in the bronze medal game. Afterwards, Steve Kerr said, and I quote, "This isn't 1992. And he's right. The world has caught up since that Olympic tournament in Barcelona. Not only have international players improved, arguably 3 or 4 out of the 5 best players in the world were born abroad. But not only are international players better than they were in 1992, they're not scared or intimidated by American basketball. And the reaction to American sprinter Noah Lyles' comments about the term world champions indicates that the world is tired. They're tired of being considered second class. And that's just the feeling I got from the whole scenario. Anyway, a little something for the NBA history nerds. Things are certainly happening in the NBA today, so let's talk about it.
Let's talk about something important.
this is the part of the show where we usually hear from you, the listener, through your questions, but this week is different. This week, I have a question for Hugo and Sean, a question that was inspired by an in-person conversation, a face-to-face that I actually had with a listener last week. I was at a gathering of sorts, a late summer backyard soiree, the only one I think I had the entire summer, and talking to this guy about, random guy, about basketball. And then he starts listing off the shows he watches on ESPN, the shows he used to watch, and then he starts listing off podcasts, basketball podcasts that he has in his rotation. And he name drops this show.
That's a smart man.
Hey, shout out to you, Travis. Anyway, we got into a good conversation about the FIBA World Cup tournament, the American loss, Canadian win. And I noticed the same conversation was happening in our high and low group chat. So I thought I'd bring it to the episode. Now, as mentioned before, the NBA was criticized for its label of its league's champions. Of course, American players jumped on Lyles, Noah Lyles. We won't relitigate that situation, but many have doubled down on the criticism of the NBA product versus global basketball. So is the NBA losing its reputation, like its cachet in the global basketball community?
I don't know if it's losing its cachet or becoming less prestigious, but I mean, any reasonable basketball fans know that the best players in the world play in the NBA. I mean, like, even the best players of other leagues, they all go to the NBA if they're good enough, or they definitely want to go to the NBA. I mean, we do see other guys from the NBA go play in other countries for more money, but that's just a big gimmick, right?
Yeah.
I think people are starting to realize that the international game is, like you said, a better brand of basketball. Mm-hmm. The reason why international teams can hang with the US is, the international teams, they pretty much play like a lot of the NBA champions that we've seen in recent memory. It's a team cohesion, unselfish, like clean brand of basketball.
Yeah.
And when I say hang with Team USA, I'm not just talking about this past team of that came forth. I'm talking about the top tier of Team USA players. Like, those guys are not blowing out the competition anymore. And, they're probably always going to be gold medal favorites, but they're capable of losing. This is not your father's dream team. The rest of the world, and you said this in your intro, has closed the gap tremendously. And I think if the NBA wants to regain some of that cachet that's lost, it's got to look further than its own league. I think the culture of international sports compared to North American sports is quite different. We've talked about on previous shows the negative aspect of AAU and how it creates these prima donna type mentalities. That carries into the NBA, and we're seeing it with a lot of the NBA stars when they don't get their way. There doesn't seem to be that type of me first attitude amongst the international players. I mean, I don't watch enough international ball, especially like the leagues and stuff, but you don't hear about that. I think if the US program, including the NBA, wants to take a firmer grip of the reins of international basketball, it needs to take a look at its development, and it needs to take a look at the younger players, and I think go from there.
I completely agree. We'll kind of touch on this later, but looking at the players, like you're talking about the attitudes, the difference in attitudes between American players and, say, international players, very different. Go ahead, Hugo.
All right. Say, I wasn't there for that world championship debate, debacle, or whatever you want to call it. It's pure nonsense. So let's be honest. In the United States, can we say that the NBA is the number 2 league over here?
Yeah.
Right? Is that fair to say? Okay. Mm-hmm. So we know the entire world doesn't hold the same opinion, right? Because the number 1 sport in the world is soccer.
Football.
Sorry, football, as they like to say outside of North America. So, I mean, on one side of the fence, the NBA probably never really had much cachet outside of North America. Mm-hmm. Remember, there's clips of, some of these other games where they got pyrotechnics and all these things going on during the game and whatnot. And that's fine. Like, I don't like I get the new commish, or well, he's not really new, but our commish wants to grow the game and have world tournaments of his own and stuff. Okay, fine. That's just a money grab. You get the word out there, yada, 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 yada. But this is not a surprise. NBA games are not the easiest thing to watch, even with League Pass.
Yeah.
Right? Games are long and they have boring points in them too. And at the end of the day, like, we have players that are great and on that platform, but we don't have a all-world unifying player or unifying players. As popular as Curry is, as popular as LeBron is, there's still a lot of people in this world that are just like, he's not Michael Jordan. He's not Magic Johnson. He's not Larry Bird.
He's not Messi or Cristiano Ronaldo.
He's not Messi. He's not Cristiano Ronaldo. Meh. So again, like, I don't, if I was the NBA and it could be a person, I wouldn't be offended. It is what it is. But at the end of the day, we still know the best players play in the best league in the world, in the universe, is the NBA. So they can call themselves world champion. Who's to argue that point? They can call themselves universal champion. Who's to argue that point? The one thing I say that the players did that was stupid is acknowledge the stupidness coming from a track star. Like, who is that guy? It wasn't even like Usain Bolt said something. Trey Lyles or Lyles Trey or whatever the heck his name was.
Noah Lyles. Respectfully.
Listen, who is he? Who is he? Brother can run fast. Whoopee! You got an Olympic gold medal? Do you?
Running's not even a sport.
No, well, hold on. That's a different story altogether. But does he have a gold medal where he can talk? Is he a world champion so he could talk? And even if he is, bruh, you're not making bank. So go sit down.
I mean, he's won gold. He
just won gold like 2 weeks ago at the World Championship.
Okay, I can run really fast, so I gotta throw shade at NBA players. Come on, man, get out of here.
You won the bronze in Tokyo.
Okay. Who else won bronze at Tokyo? Ain't nobody we care about. No,
I'm not here.
He makes no point.
But it's semantics. Yes. I think you make a great point because you're saying that it's the players responding to that. That was the problem. You know what I mean? Because it's all semantics. Like, just let the guy talk. He's talking about terminology, whether it's a world champion or NBA champion, you get what we're talking about.
How many guys from the UK have you heard say the exact same thing? Like, or how many people have you run into in your life? Like, my dad has been saying this for decades.
Exactly.
What do they call themselves? Why is it called the World Series?
Exactly.
Like, yes. Who cares? But everybody else in the world is complaining. They ain't watching it anyway. Who cares?
Yeah, why are they responding? People have been saying the same thing for decades, and it's never mattered. You're right.
Who cares? And this is why I didn't like what the NBA did, because anytime you say anything to the WNBA, what do? Right? They get all upset. They start hitting social media. They try to clap back, and all of us are sitting here like, bro, it's just a suggestion. Like, 9-foot rims may help your game.
Take it easy.
Bro, it's just a suggestion. Your trophy looks like a teacup. Like, it's not really good if you want to, like. So
all right. Stop taking shots.
No, hey, listen, I just watched their playoff game the other day. It was great.
Yeah, the Aces are killing it right now.
I don't know if it was the Aces I watched, but it was a great game I watched. Though. It was great.
We'll continue to debate this in the group chat, or maybe not. I don't know. But hey, it's great fodder. Quick reminder to High and Low Lives, if you want to leave a question for us to answer on the show, send your DM to us on TikTok at More High and Low. You can send your DM to Get High and Low or at Get High and Low on Instagram. Links are in the show notes. It's time to take a break. When we come back, we're talking about role models. Role models. Mm-hmm. This is High and Low.
This moment is brought to you by High and Low listeners. This week on the High and Low NBA show, listeners were asked to share the top 5 most interesting situations to watch at the start of the NBA season. We heard from Zooks in Atlanta, Georgia, Zooks shared his list starting with number 5, the Oklahoma City Thunder. Shea looked like a top 5 player over the summer, and Chet Holmgren returns to the lineup this year along with other young OKC stars. Can Shea follow up with an MVP caliber season and lead the Thunder to the next level? Number 4 is the Phoenix Suns. Beal, Durant, and Booker, plus a new Suns owner who wants to disrupt the entire NBA landscape. Number 3 is Milwaukee. The Bucks have to perform this year since Giannis gave his conditional 2-week notice. Number 2 is Chris Paul and Golden State. Draymond Green says he wants to help Chris Paul get his first championship. But is Chris Paul willing to do what it takes to win it all? Would one of the greatest point guards of all time be willing to come off the bench in Golden State? And the number 1 situation to watch for at the start of the NBA season is James Harden in Philadelphia, just to see how difficult Harden makes Morey's life before the Sixers have no choice but to trade him away. Zooks, thank you for sharing your top 5 list with us. Let's get back to the high and low NBA show.
And we are back. I'm Ike Amaechi. That's Hugo the Sheik. That's Sean Khan. And this is a high and low NBA show. NBA players keep getting into trouble. Guns, sexual and physical assault, drugs. The list goes on, man. Kevin Porter Jr. is the latest in a long line of players that have engaged in immoral and illegal behavior, and then it's plastered all over social media and traditional media outlets. It feels like an annual tradition at this point. Despite this fact, players, generally speaking, are still idolized and positioned as role models for younger basketball fans, despite the consistent misconduct. Charles Barkley was featured in a Nike ad back in 1991, and he had a very simple but powerful message. I am not a role model. Chuck said that it's one of the most important things he did in his basketball career, in his NBA career. And it should be, because he was right. He was not a role model, and he shouldn't be. Neither should any other player. But that's just my opinion. Before I give my 2 pennies, let me ask you guys this question. Why are NBA players idolized in this way? Should NBA players be in this privileged position?
Well, I think it's human nature, unfortunately, to idolize something that you don't have or something that you want, right? You know, I always make the joke, I idolize Martin's life, right? And that's a shout out to you, Martin. And I don't think this is anything new. It's no different than, you know, people following your favorite rapper with his gun-toting nonsense and whatnot. So, you know, even up to now, how people want to idolize Donald Trump, Elon Musk, you know, for all their shenanigans. So I don't think this is anything new. I think it's more indicative of, you know, parenting and people's own self-worth. And I'm not going to get all super mindful on this because this is not that type of podcast.
Should.
But, you know, I try to separate the two. Like, if you play, you play. And I admire your play. Off the court, if you're a respectful individual, I respect you. If you do stuff that's despicable, okay, fine. I don't have to respect you. I think the problems that we have now in the NBA, we've always had those problems, right? Remember famously the Chicago Bulls, when Jordan got there, all them guys were hopped up on drugs every single game, right? Go a couple of years forward, Allen Iverson playing basketball, pretty well much drunk every single game.
Whoa, allegedly.
Right? Allegedly, right? He did admit to drinking problems, so we'll just leave it at that. So I don't want to knock down a Hall of Famer. So I think we've always had these issues. I think players do have a bit too much privilege. Like when I see the nonsense with Ja, you know, I say to myself, how is that guy just not banished from the league? Right? Back in the Stern days when keep me honest, the player that played with the San Antonio Spurs, street baller guy or whatnot, did he not get into some trouble? And then Stern just said, okay, fine, you're basically out. Stern cleaned up the league before. My point is this. We've seen this a bunch of times. The league needs to crack down on this type of nonsense if good character matters. Right? Mm-hmm. The minute you see a player gone for a year, that'll make a big difference. And treat them all equally. I don't care if you're an all-star. I don't care if you're an MVP. You do something dumb, you're gone for a year. Sit down and think about it. And if they come back and they still don't learn their lesson, that's cool. Now you're gone for 2 years. Go play in Taiwan with Dwight Howard.
Yeah, see, I think that's the key right there, because the NBA has done this before, where they basically kick players out of the league. I'm thinking OJ Mayo, right? What's this other guy's? Tyreek Evans.
Yep.
Right.
Charles Barkley.
These guys were banished from the league for substance abuse, drinking, whatever, alcoholism, several different reasons.
Mm-hmm.
But these guys are good players at best. Like OJ Mayo was a good player. Tyreek Evans, good basketball player. Not superstars, not stars. I think that's when you really send a loud message, is when it happens to a superstar, a lot of money on the line. If this player disappears, some people are going to be losing their shirts. So does the NBA have what they call gumption, the gumption to actually do that and make that call? Yeah. Anyway, Sean, go ahead.
If they did have the gumption, they would have kicked Michael Jordan out of the league and not pretend that he was playing baseball for 2 years.
Oh, stop that.
They did kick him out.
I had very similar type of reaction, hearing your answer, hearing your reply about the parenting, and it's not really, it's the responsibility as a parent to make sure your child doesn't follow the negative things that they see in these players and stuff. And it's not really the player's responsibility to be that role model, a la Charles Barkley. I'm kind of looking at it from two angles. One reason that is like the players have earned the right to be looked up to and quote unquote idolized. These are men who have worked tirelessly to get to the position where they're in today, and that is to be commended. And there are life lessons that anyone can pull from. If you work hard, put the time in, you can master your craft and become a success. And the same is true for any career. Like these guys just happen to be in the spotlight because they're in the entertainment business. The other side of that coin is that nobody outside of these players, outside of their inner circles, really knows who these people actually are. Mm-hmm. And while they've worked hard to get where they are, they've essentially grown up as child stars in their communities. And they've basically been given everything they've wanted and have essentially become spoiled. Like you said, John Morant. I think the media and these sports broadcasts play a major role in projecting these guys as idols. So it's almost as if we're brainwashed into believing it. And even if it works slightly on us adults, it's working on the kids for sure.
Oh, for sure.
I'll never forget when, and this is a different sport, but a really relevant example, when the NFL interviewed Aaron Hernandez before game 1 week.
Oh, geez.
And they were talking about his past and how he's overcome his demons. It was one of the best turning to the light stories you could ever hear. And shortly after that interview, he signed a big $50 million contract. And then shortly after that, he was charged with 2 murders. The way they portrayed him was just like, savior and this like great man who's overcome all these things. But obviously this is an extreme case, and there are some other forces at work, the CTE, the internal battles that he was dealing with.
That man was a devil.
He really was. And but we do see these NBA guys like John Morant, like waving around guns like they're toys or little accessories. Like that's not responsible behavior. And I'm not even necessarily against gun ownership, but like that's just not how a person that's being looked up to by children should be acting, I think. Mm-hmm. Yeah. But watch, like next season when he comes back, they'll do the same Aaron Hernandez interview with him, and they'll treat him like he's Jesus in no time.
So 2 points real quick. One, if you look at the NBA mainly, but sports leagues in general, what's the 2 ways you get banned from the sport?
Drugs.
Bingo.
And the other one, some sort of assault.
Nope. Not always assault. Gambling. Those are 1 and 2. Yeah. because gambling goes right to the heart of the game and the integrity of the game, and for whatever reason, drug abuse just bothers them, and it's just, to me, it's weird that that's the only two ways that you'll get kicked out of the league. Like brandishing guns, assault, all of these things is not looked upon the same way. Right?
Well,
like even
why
the guy,
is that,
even
though?
Because there's two sides to every story, and
that's true.
But a lot of times,
Because there's precedent. There's precedent, right? Because
exactly
the reason why the NBA comes down very hard on drugs or drug abuse. I mean, they had a massive problem with that.
Bias.
Correct.
Len Bias, right? Len Bias
Correct.
was a player that was supposed to be the next one, and
Yep.
they lost him.
What team was
drugs.
that? Was it the Sixers where Andrew Wiggins'
Milwaukee?
dad, like 4 of them got suspended for like a year?
Houston
or two?
Rockets. Like
Yeah.
the entire team was high the entire season, and then half the team was suspended. And that was a team that was supposed to go to the NBA Finals. They were favored to win the championship.
Yep. And the second point is, okay, so remember when Stern came in and cleaned up stuff, right? God bless his soul. Because remember, he would go right up to players and have conversations with them and say, so look, remember Gilbert Arenas and his gun nonsense?
Mm-hmm.
Stern came and said, look, I'll void that contract. What? You can't do. I will void that contract if you don't take this 50-game suspension right now and behave yourself.
Code of conduct.
Code of conduct.
They violated the code of conduct, yeah.
Exactly. Where are these conversations, right? Because God bless his soul, Ja. Listen, I get it. You're young. You're this. You're that.
He's alive, man. What do you mean, God bless his soul?
Well, listen, I'm just saying. I'm just saying, where's that conversation, right? And I get Adam Silver is a different type of leader and whatnot. That's fine. But where's the conversation when you sit down with him and his dad and you just look him in his face and go, listen, you better behave. If I see this nonsense again, you're gone for 150 games, period. Let me catch you again. Let me have this. Let me fly on a plane and come catch you again doing this. I don't care what gun laws you are in that state. Let me catch you again. I promise you.
So you want Adam Silver to turn into a Nigerian father, essentially?
Pretty much. I will beat you up. I will make sure you do not see the light of day again. Move from me.
Don't make me come outside. If I come outside...
In the words of Tricks, I'll throw this phone.
let me throw this phone.
Shout out to Tricks.
Yeah, I don't know, man. I'm of two minds on this one. I'll put it like this. NBA players are not people. Okay, hold on.
I know what you're trying to do.
I realized what I said in the moment. Let me just walk that back.
I know what you're trying to do. I see it. Let's see if you can execute it.
Okay. They are people. They're just not the same as the average person, right? So the average NBA player makes, $9 million a year. I mean, the league minimum is just over $1 million. The NBA superstars are elite. But even the average NBA player is rich. We should just keep that in perspective. Like, let's say, like next to Singapore, New York City is the most expensive city in the world to live in.
Not Toronto?
Extremely. I think New York City is number 2, right? An extremely high cost of living, and the average salary in New York City, the average individual income, not even household income, is $107,000. So the lifestyle of someone who makes $107,000 is vastly different from the lifestyle of someone who makes the league minimum. Never mind the average salary in the NBA. So NBA players have an entirely different experience and perspective from the average person in the most expensive city. Never mind a more realistic scenario where people are making like say $50,000, $60,000, $70,000 a year. NBA players are like second tier elites. Let's categorize them as that. They're not billionaire owners, but they're just a rung below that. They cannot relate to the experiences of the average NBA fan, right? Yet they're in a position where kids model their behavior, their words, their fashion choices, their consumption. They model all of that after their favorite players, and there's nothing wrong, because I think you mentioned this earlier. I think, like, say you want to make it to the NBA, It's great to set goals in life. You have that benchmark. And if you want to play in the NBA, you work hard, go as far as your efforts will take you. That's great. I fully support it. If you want to live a lavish NBA-like lifestyle, based on making millions a year, same thing. Work hard, get yours, shake my hand, congratulations. Idolizing NBA players, though, I don't get it. They're mostly privileged, sheltered, overindulged, and some of them act like demons. The likoyut them, just to grab my top boy lingo. They need to model the behaviors after their parents. And I know, Hugo, you're about to touch on this, but you didn't want to touch too hard. That would be more ideal. But again, some parents are far worse than the Kevin Porter Jr.'s of the world. So in that case, maybe an NBA player isn't all that bad. But I do want to play devil's advocate for myself right now, because on the flip side of that, there are players who present a positive picture. And I'm thinking LeBron James. He's represented what has been like a perilous void in Black communities for decades. He's presented himself as a loving, supporting, supportive, and successful Black father and husband. And that's a benchmark every person in the world should aim to achieve. The same can be said about Steph Curry. And at some point in the mid to late 90s, you would see NBA players bringing their kids to All-Star weekends, sitting in the front row, watching the festivities, all that stuff. In the 2000s, in the aughts, Steph Curry, Chris Paul would bring their kids to post-game scrums. They presented this picture of Black fatherhood that mainstream media has struggled to really feature. And for that, I say some NBA players can be the perfect role models, but not all. Not the Ja Morants and the Kevin Porter Jr.'s. Those demons, they need Jesus. Let's just put it that way. Anyway, that's my 2 cents.
Preach.
Why the fuck I can't shoot 3-point shots?
That brings us to the end of this episode of High and Low. Hope you enjoyed this one. Thank you, Hugo. Thank you, Sean. Remember to subscribe to High and Low anywhere you find podcasts and make us a part of your weekly routine. We're on Instagram. We're on TikTok. We're on X, formerly known as Twitter. We're on YouTube and sometimes Threads. Links to those are all in the show notes. Where can listeners find you, Sean?
Wow, first, you guys can find me on Instagram.
Nice.
I don't even know what my handle is anymore.
Sean Controversies?
Sean_controversy.
Well, you had to put the underscore in?
I think it's there. I think I probably had to, yeah.
Are you sure?
This is not new. I've been saying this for like 2 years.
Exactly. This is old information. And you go, where can they find you, man? Where can they find you?
Man, you can find me on Instagram, but I don't remember what my handle is. I ain't getting no DMs or nothing, so I just doom scroll for stuff that Mitch and everybody else posts on there. So,
are you still the Decepticon?
I think so. I don't remember. I just look at stuff now.
Are you on TikTok now?
No, but I am on Snap. But that's just to make sure my daughter doesn't do anything silly.
Wow.
And you guys have to see if my algorithms are still dirty, because I don't see as many salacious stuff as I used to see.
No worry. I don't know how to check that, but you just just take a screenshot and we'll determine.
All right,
we'll determine how salacious your algorithm
I know
really is.
I'm not seeing what I was seeing before, so I don't know. Maybe my content preferences changed. I don't know. I don't know.
Looks like there's been a reset, I guess.
Yes, but mind you, big up to anime butt fighting. I'm telling you guys, that's the jam right there.
Come on.
It's called hentai, and it's art.
There goes your algorithm. Right down the drain. Anime butt fighting. Anyway, once again, music is by Live of the Enjoy Music Group. That's the music you're listening to right now. You can find Live on Twitter and on Instagram at LYVE. When I say Twitter, I'm talking about X, right? Man, that is a rough change. Like, X is one of the worst letters. Like, you type that into your search, and it's like, wow.
What pops up?
It's rough.
I just got a brand new phone, and it was still not a good letter to use.
That's what I'm saying. Oh, okay. Anyway,
I don't know what my guy was thinking, man.
I think he knows exactly what he's doing. He's trying to get.
I hope
trying
so.
to get Mans in trouble. Anyway, additional music is by Sonny Rockwell of The Goodness. Can't find that guy anywhere. Sound design is by Vonn August. This is a Vonn+Abrahamm podcast, just in case you didn't know. Podcast, okay? Yeah. This is a Vonn+Abrahamm podcast, just in case you didn't know. So on behalf of Hugo the Sheik, on behalf of Sean Khan, I'm Ike Amaechi. Thank you for listening to High and Low this week, and we'll talk to you next week.